welcome back. Hour two of Anti-Media Radio. Uh, it's probably about time I changed that theme song. It kind of sounds like an alien funeral, like a funeral for a advanced alien, like a lord of a planet that finally died. And speaking of an alien funeral, that's about what it feels like to be on Facebook right now, for me at least, as my liberal friends continue to mourn the death of all of mankind, past and future, which is basically what it feels like. I did attend a protest, not because I support Hillary Clinton, but because I am against imperialism, and I don't see that changing under Donald Trump. And, there's multiple other policies of his that I think are not good. But, I want to give him a chance to actually enact some of them, and that seems to be what's happening. And it's been kind of a flurry of executive orders. And I think, the way I've heard it described is they want a DDoS type attack, which is distributed denial of service. Typically it's used online, but it seems as though that's what the Trump administration is doing in trying to basically make it to where the media can't handle what's going on, can't keep up. So yeah, it's a weird time. If you're pro-Trump, this is, the best time in history for you. You're taking back your country. I think it's misplaced optimism, quite frankly, because, okay, let me get right into it. If you don't want refugees coming here, let's stop bombing the countries. The countries he put on the list that he's banning, the home countries he's banning, the refugees, are the same countries we've been bombing the shit out over the last 10 years. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. And speaking of Afghanistan, Trump is considering sending more troops to Afghanistan. So I don't really know how that squares away with this idea. We're going to get into it. My co-host DB Schwartz will be calling in soon, and he thinks Trump has done some good things in terms of clearing out the State Department, which we're going to talk about. Trump did do one thing that I thought was good, which is he formally signed us out of the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is a good thing. Yes, it was, for all intents and purposes, dead in Congress, but that wouldn't have been the case if Hillary Clinton were president. So let's take a victory there. Let's take a victory lap. The TPP was a horrible trade agreement. It would have allowed, basically corporate tribunals to overrule international legislation, including environmental legislation. So that's a good thing. Now, in that same breath, of course, Trump is doing terrible things for the environment right now and dismantling the EPA. Now, I hate to sound like a statist, but, if we're going to have a government, if there's going to be government bodies operating, it's not bad to have a couple of them looking out for the environment. But I know if you're a statist or if you're an anarchist and you're listening, you just put a needle in the voodoo doll that is me because you hate me. But yeah, they released the CIA. This is a different topic, by the way, but the CIA released a bunch of files, interesting files. The CIA declassified the legendary Stargate files. And the Stargate project was popularized in the film The Men Who Stare at Goats. Some of you may have seen it. And it was formal government research into psychic abilities. And they finally declassified a bunch of those documents, and they're pretty interesting. Basically, it sounds like the people who were working on these documents pretty much believed that there was psychic powers going on. Uh, and I wrote about it in an article for the Anti-Media, and it's doing pretty good. 8.6 thousand shares. Pretty good. And, you know, it's always a good thing when the government declassifies a bunch of crazy shit like that. Yeah, there was also some UFO files. They got released, and who knows when we're gonna get disclosure on that? I mean, unfortunately, there were rumors that Hillary Clinton was going to be the disclosure president, but I guess that's not gonna happen now. No, I mean, does anyone really think that Hillary Clinton was going to declassify a bunch of actual UFO documents proving UFOs? I certainly don't. But this article I wrote looks into some of it. So the Stargate program, again, this is real-life government research into psychic abilities. It was a top-secret program and revealed, in this recent CIA document dump, there was 930,000 declassified files, 12 million pages worth of government files. And much of this was previously available to the public only at the National Archives in Maryland. And a Freedom of Information Act group called Muckrock really went after the CIA and made them declassify a bunch of these documents. And now we have them, and it's a searchable database. So I urge you to join me in going on the CIA Crest searchable database and enter words like UFO or psychic, Uri Geller, who is a psychic celebrity. And, the CIA's mission statement for the Stargate project was to establish a program using psychoenergetics for intelligence applications. Weird and wild stuff. I'm going to talk this over a bit with the man of the hour, DB Schwartz. DB, how you doing?
Doing good. Just,
yeah.
Every day is now like a freaking soap opera drama or something. And the media is obviously crying about things being different now. And I think what we're seeing, honestly, it is a different regime because it's like the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. So at the last like 20 plus years of the U.S. has been controlled by the same people behind the scenes, and now different people behind the scenes have taken control. So it's funny. It's funny to see the media cry every single day. Yeah. Yes, I realize there's protests. I'm not going to illegitimize the protests, but there's a small minority of the people of this country. Honestly, people think these protests are huge. They're a pittance.
Well, they're the biggest protest in history, in U.S. history.
I mean, yeah, but saying what? I mean, so you're getting 60,
right. Well,
70.
That's the problem with them is that they don't have a cohesive message. They're many of the people marching, and I march, so I'm not claiming to be better than them. A lot of them still don't understand, first of all, why Trump won, and two, how the left needs to change completely. They don't.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I here's the thing. They should have done this far beyond or before. I mean, they should have done this in results of the primary. It's hypocritical, honestly. It really is. It's just for people that were supporters of Bernie, for people that despise Hillary. We see this as a lot of sour grapes. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna, like I said, there's legitimate reasons to march for sure. But I mean, like the day after the inauguration, that's not good to, planning and timing. Letting HRC skate in on a completely rigged primary that
Yeah.
Bernie would have crushed Trump.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bernie Sanders would have beaten the hell out of Trump. I think
the
anyone.
hell out of him. He was
Yeah.
58 to 42 pre runoff. I mean, when people got to know the guy, and I'm not saying he could have pushed through his policies, but the guy has a good heart.
Yeah,
And
no, he would have been stalemated in I mean, he would have been just in terms of being stalemated by the Congress, he would have been just the same as Obama. I mean, I guess him being white would have helped him a little bit. I don't think anyone
well,
can deny
but
that a lot of
he
what Obama went through is just simply racism in terms of the obstructionist Congress. Uh,
those populist notions are gaining popularity
yeah,
because people are not able to make a living. People from the 60s and 70s could afford a home on 5 years of wages. You can't work 5 years now and buy your home.
well,
Yep.
that's the issue is that the left lost the working class, and that's the thing is I think a lot of people that voted for Trump didn't really want to vote for Trump. A lot of them I think probably had a lot of reservations about him, but he was the only candidate who was removed from that political establishment that has been building up there. That has all these revolving doors with the banks and with the defense contractors and with the entire deep state corporatocracy, whatever you want to call it, that Hillary Clinton represented. She represented everything that the nation was against, and the Democrats stubbornly pushed her forward because I don't know, they still won't admit that it was a mistake. Is the sad thing.
She has dirt on them all. That's the main thing. I mean, her foundation's basically what it was like a private clandestine intelligence agency and a racketeering ring. And as you've noticed, they've been now contracting and absolving.
Yeah.
And she's going to probably end up disappearing with Bill. They keep saying she's going to have a talk show. That would have only worked if they brokered a deal. It's possible Trump brokered a deal with her. I really honestly have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, except that I keep rereading people saying NYPD got Anthony Weiner's life insurance file off of his laptop that had video proof of her and Bill and a lot of other top officials involved in things that would make a lot of people want them to be, given an execution sentence. And those things they can't be doctored, and people are not going to let them go. I mean, these are regular Joes that have kids. So I honestly keep reading that over and over again, saying, it's we can go down a different rabbit hole, whatever you want to do, Jake. But
well, I'm fully willing to discuss Pizzagate, but I mean, has one person had charges filed against him yet in this case?
Well, there hasn't even been an investigation done officially at all, period. So there's a critical mass building up in the periphery of Facebook, but it's primarily driven by vote.co originally, and now there is a pizzagate.com, which is condensing all this information. So here's the thing. Nobody wants to touch it because it opens up something worldwide, and that's a big problem. The way it can be done is you have to prepare. And just to go into it just at the very basic level, I'll bounce an idea off of you. 2 or 3 days ago, Trump said, the homicide rates in Chicago were bad enough to where he said he'd send in the feds. And the thing that I see happening with what I believe to be true information about these worldwide pedo rings and these trafficking rings, which are all, by the way, tied into the war on drugs. And they're all, I mean, just anything heinous and horrible that people would refuse to do because they know it's wrong. And, if there is a hell, you're going to go there, and every other reason not to do these things besides just not being a monster. They're profitable, okay? Because there's people that have mental illness and disease and they're sick, and they feed their desires and they're willing to pay top dollar to do it. All right, so you have this underground ring.
I don't
You
think
know,
anyone can deny that there are vast amounts of pedophiles out there. I don't think
the
that's disputable.
the global pedophile ring has been estimated at somewhere around 60 to 70 billion per year. Okay, so that's a lot. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of transactions and power economically, and people are willing to do horrible things to service that demand. They're willing to supply it. Okay, and what that does is it creates a thing where people that want to do black budget stuff would create a monopoly on those supplies. So that's the problem we have now is the people that are supposed to be doing national security have been involved in these rings to fund black budget operations that are Jake, that's probably an entirely 1 hour show for us to go into why we have black budgets. What is the need for people that are supposed to be protecting us to have things they have to do off the books? Why would they have to do that? Couldn't they justify anything to protect us? I mean,
Yeah.
the truth is no. I mean, they're doing things
Well,
that, you know,
in the black budget, the black op budget is staggering. I don't think people would even believe me. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what it is, but it's a staggering number. And what's even more staggering is how much of it is laundered, how much of it is off the books. I mean,
yeah, it's
we have on the
virtually
book
all.
black ops, we have on the book black ops, and then we have stuff that literally just you can't even. It's untraceable what's going on.
Jake, you read Confessions of an Economic Hitman, or at least you're aware of the basic premise of it, which is
I didn't actually.
yeah.
Please
I mean,
enlighten me.
it's essentially that we have a modus operandi or a way that we go about spreading the tentacles of our military industrial / banking complex, which until this last election they were intertwined, and they've actually broken apart, and we can go into that. That's kind of a side note we can go into, but
I have in my hands the sequel to Confessions of an Economic, the Secret History of the American Empire,
yes,
and
yes.
I'm currently reading that.
Yeah, and that's the arms dealer side. So there's two sides to the coin of how the world is run, money wise now. So most people are aware because we haven't had a world war in 70 years, okay? And we've, except for Antarctica, which is thawing out, we've at least developed about 90-ish% of the globe. So there's not a lot of economic opportunity, that there's no low-hanging fruit left. But what there is there's this unquenchable demand for vices of all sorts. And the growth opportunity in the world from a freakonomics level is satisfying new markets that have never been able to be opened up before, but now are because of the internet. So, for instance, somebody in the past would have had to, for instance, kidnap a child, but now they can buy one on the internet. And it's gotten to that sick, degenerate point in our society where that's driving a new economy. And what happens
there? If you're out there shaking your head right now, I hate to break it to you, but it's real.
Yeah, it's the dark web. So, if you want to go on Linux and tour yourself silly, go for it, and you'll never be the same. I don't recommend it. Just live in the gray areas, not the black.
Well, that's what, a few years back, if people remember, the Silk Road was a dark web bartering, basically an Amazon of vice on the dark web, and you could have people killed on there. You could get drugs. I don't know actually if they had kids on there, but it wouldn't surprise me. But the government infiltrated it and brought it down. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The Silk Road was just the tip of the iceberg in what's going on out there.
I don't believe that had any human trafficking, because they've they've managed to monopolize that simply because it's the bottom of the heap of reality. I mean, these are people that if there is a hell, they're going there without a question. But
so you think the government is basically has infiltrated the market for what purpose?
Attempted to monopolize it to provide themselves with something in the realm of several $1 trillion per year to create a shadow infrastructure to protect the shadow government, or the old blood royalty, which had been running the country, honestly, until this election cycle. They actually lost their primary power, which was the U.S. military. That's been taken back. But here's the thing, dude. The head of the snake was the CIA. Essentially, they'd had their hands in everything. You know, a perfect person to start with is Mae Brussel. She's on UCY.tv, I think, sometimes, and she's the original researcher. She spurred William Cooper. If you want to kind of get going on what the beast is and how it was created and why, that'll get you going. But
Well, I read Beyond a Pale Horse.
yeah. I
So that
mean,
was
and he died for that. And you know,
yeah.
whenever you die for something, whenever it's like Dr. Udo, who's just died, and he wrote a book with proof that the CIA was actually verbatim writing a lot of these WAPO and New York Times articles, and these journalists were being forced to put their own name on the byline. So, you know, he died for that, and there's a lot of martyrs out there that are going to die for the truth, because once you learn certain things, it makes you sick, and you don't really want to live without exposing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, to get back to what the root of the problem was, is that, you know, there was families that owned the banks, and they'd owned the gold, and they'd had the power forever, because forever humans were the most important thing, but now tech is, right? And they hadn't kept up. I mean, it's impossible to keep up. Let's be honest. If you have a super programmer versus 10 average programmers, they're going to destroy the super programmer like it's nothing. And numbers now count for everything, because technology's created a parity that's been unrivaled in human history. Wealth now only matters so much, and as you can find people willing to work for your blood money. And a lot of people are unwilling to work for money, period. No matter what you pay them, they will not work for you. They just refuse. And it's getting to that point where it's that good versus evil paradigm. It's bubbling to the surface now. I'm not going to say that people in charge are good, but I'm going to say the people that were in charge were the absolute fucking worst people that are ever existed.
Well, okay, and so let's get into this, because we were chatting about it a little bit earlier, and you know, I can definitely buy the idea that Donald Trump is an outsider that decided to come in and clean house, and maybe he's trying to clean up the State Department and whatnot. I have a hard time believing that literally the day Obama left and the day Trump stepped in, that there was just an entire power dynamic shift in the U.S. government. Because the U.S. government, it's not just these departments anymore. They're interconnected with corporations.
But there's only one corporation that actually truly matters, and that's the United States military. And that the simple reason for that is because if at any time anybody decides that they want to try to go against them, then they die. So it's really quite that simple. I mean, these are people that are professional killers. Okay, so the CIA had tried to circumvent and become a private corporation and a military for the elite. That's not going to ever work. You're always going to be outnumbered. You're not going to hire 1 million people into the CIA. It can't happen. But there's 1 million people in the military.
But the CIA is still maintaining its function as basically a paramilitary group. That's what
it's going to be shifted back to what it originally was, which is OSS.
The guy entering the new director of the CIA, I just listened to an interview with him the other day. He says he wants the CIA to continue to be a paramilitary group over being an espionage spy group.
Then there's going to be an internal war for sure, because that's not what the military wants. They want to be given information and then they act on it. So you may see a residual effect of this election, and maybe the CIA will be truly cleaned out, and this was an appointee, because it goes against kind of everything that I've been reading, which is that people that had surveillance files truly and were kind of over the behavior of the people on the top. It had gotten a little too out hand even for them. But
So
I don't know, Jake. I really don't. I truly do not know. But we're starting to see some things we have never, ever seen before. State Department people like Patrick Kennedy, who they said quit and protest, he was fired. These people were fired. They don't leave these cushy jobs, these pensions. They never leave.
it's
So,
interesting because I just heard an interview today about one 38-year-old who says he quit. But I don't think this is a top level guy. I think this is a
no,
guy
these
who
are
just
mid-level. And what these are sycophants for these guys that got fired. So they're all quitting en masse because they know they're going to get fired anyway. So it's as close to a soft coup as we could ever have in the U.S. If there's another counter coup here, it would become bloody because the election's done. If these protests give them a reason to declare martial law, it will become lethal because it would have to. So I hate to say that to people. You have every right to go out and protest. You do,
well,
but
yeah. I mean,
you
I
know,
just people should be protesting for the right reasons,
well, the thing
and
is, they're going to
that's
start using
obvious.
NDAA 17. That's the problem, and people need to read that. It's pretty much taken it back literally to 1947's bare bones National Defense Authorization. I mean, there's a lot of the language of enemy aliens popping back up. And if you know anything at all about George Takei and his experiences and what internment camps are and what they're used for and how they would be used again and what lists are for and all those other things. And the worst thing about it, Jake, is now the control measures like facial recognition with CCTV cameras. I mean, they got you if they want you.
So what if the old guard has fallen? What does the new guard want?
They want, well, okay, so this is just my own theory. What was our prevailing foreign policy at the turn of the last century? What did we take advantage of in a major way that shaped world events, and we kind of had to do it because we were on top of the world for military tech. So I always think like we're in this
I don't know.
we're in this like 5 to 10 year window here where there's no parity with us militarily. Like China, we can see them starting to challenge, and but we know they're not there yet. So it was similar to when Teddy Roosevelt was in right at the turn of the century when we'd perfected steam-driven gunboats that had iron siding. They could shoot cannons from miles away, and even if you hit them, your cannons would bounce off, and then they could outmaneuver any sailboat. And so we literally went into ports with like one ship, bombarded the port, and they gave up, and we signed favorable trade deals like with Japan, like with most of the Orient and most of the Pacific Island nations, and took over Hawaii eventually and the Philippines and everything. So we're in a position now to the insane people at the top that they say if we got in a fight with Russia, with China, or better yet, if we could get China somehow to fight both of us and Russia after we got the Middle East mopped up, we could win. Understand that winning means mostly me and you and everybody, like all our loved ones that we all die because they don't care. They just go underground. But they think they can win now. They think they have technological advantage. And
Over China?
over China, yeah, of course, dude. We're way ahead of them. They have a lot of things.
I mean, but
They have a lot of advantages.
it's not a matter of who would win. It's what we would lose in the process.
Well, you can win. I'm telling you right now that with what I know we have, that we can win, but that it doesn't matter because me and you will die. So, but to the elites, they don't care because they won't die, so they'll win. Because we have tech that it'll wipe them all out. Like it'll wipe most of us out, but we'll have some percentage that lives.
Well, what kind of, is this DARPA stuff? Like, what kind of tech are you talking about?
Well, just from my own cursory research, and trust me, I have not gone down a rabbit hole, but when I found out they had created what was called a cobalt ICBM, so they started using the much higher flash point of the mineral of cobalt versus uranium and plutonium or anything else they've seen, where they found a way to make Hiroshima 1/10 millionth of the power of what they can do now.
Wow.
So, in other words, you can just if one lands, it destroys all of them, like everything. That's where we're at. So, missile shields don't matter anymore. Lasers, I mean, just if one lands, everybody's gone. Like it's a 30 or 40 mile radius. So you drop what? China's not that big. They're as big as we are. Maybe 30 or 40 of those, we shoot at them, and it's just so it's over. So
Yeah. That's troubling.
Well, it's where it's at, man. They've never stopped building after 45. They've just kept going and going and going and getting crazier and crazier. Now there's different techs though, like Japan and Russia focus more on biologicals, which is kind of like why we haven't really messed with them after. Everybody thinks we beat Japan, but we never invaded them, so we never took them over, so we never actually beat them. We signed an armistice with them. The ceasefire was in 45, and then we signed an armistice in 52 with them, and then we opened up our markets to them, which is when you saw the like Hondas and Toyotas come in. So we kind of had like a peace, and of course we never invaded Russia and I hope we never do because that's suicide. But they invested in biological weapons because we had the nuke. So they're like, oh crap, we got to find out some other way to make a WMD so these guys don't nuke us. And obviously Japan already took 2 hits, so yeah, man, it's never stopped. It's just they've kept going. I mean, who knows where they're at now?
Yeah, and it's historically we're overdue for a massive conflict. We're well overdue for one. So I don't know. Can we have a soft World War III? Is that?
We can if we. That's why they keep pushing the cyber war kind of thing to. Well, we're gonna have cyber war,
Space. We've been investing in space war for a while now, actually. Back to Reagan. God knows what we have out there now, and God knows what we're capable of doing from space. It might not even be possible, or it might not even be necessary to launch a traditional ICBM. If you can disable someone from space, or disable them with cyber warfare. I just don't,
Just know that technology is not. It's just one part of the umbrella, or it's just one tome. I mean, they understand they can, knock each other's stuff out with EMPs. So there's ways you can get around it with tech that's from the like 40s and 30s, where you can lead line, which is the stuff they've used forever. But they're getting around it, man. I mean, these autonomous drones are all lead lined. I mean, they don't need to receive any signal at all, and they self-learn. So they're not going to get EMP'd out. And then, I think you saw today that they broke the news. They have an embryonic pig-human hybrid. Now, this is old news.
I didn't hear that.
Stalin created human-ape hybrid in the 50s, and that was intended to be used for like a slave labor force / security team of all these Planet of the Ape guys. And they've been trying to do this stuff forever, and they've succeeded. But of course, nothing beats a human, because a human's smart, and a human has emotions and feelings and intelligence and intuition, and you're never going to beat a person. So all this stuff's always madmen trying to create these hybrids for specific uses. But they're chimeras. I mean, they're never as good as natural progression. I never say natural selection, because it's not selection, it's progression. When animals develop a trait through mutation or what have you that's beneficial, then of course they're probably more apt to survive and reproduce. So it's just that simple. And all this hybridization, it's just It's like GMOs, man. Now there's a superbug. Now there's a superbug. Now there's gonorrhea they can't cure. Do you know
Oh,
that's a
great.
result of genetic modification of foods as a cross? It's like a cross jump. So because a superbug was introduced to a STD, the STD now is invulnerable to almost all antibiotics they can come up with. Thanks. Good job, Monsanto.
Thanks, Obama. Yeah, they. I mean, okay, so we have. All right, Where should I dig in here? There's probably continued biological evolution that we can, or not biological evolution, cross hybridization, which is what you're talking about. Biotechnology is going to get to that point. I think within 30 to 50 years, you will have, it will be standard to walk down the street and see someone who is, blended their body into that with another animal. I think that's going to happen. There's another form of evolution that's going to take place, which is, of course, the elephant in the room and everything that we're talking about, which is, of course, when strong artificial intelligence comes about. And it may already be here, but I mean when it's, actually making decisions and controlling what's going on. I really do think that's the elephant in the room because humans are destroying the planet right now. Whether we get our affairs in order in terms of international policy or not, we're still beholden to this kind of corporate cabal which controls everything and is littering the planet. The only way to stop that is to create a new world order, and I'm not talking about Bush's Illuminati. I'm talking about a syndicate of artilects, AI intellects that can exert control over humans in a way where humans are not extinct. We don't go extinct. I don't think it's going to be a Terminator situation. But they're going to show us how to steward the planet, how to be stewards of the planet, because that's the only way. Because that's the only way we're ever going to meet extraterrestrial intelligence. Extraterrestrial intelligence, they're not going to come down and talk to us while we're doing the shit we're doing right now. It's just that they're not going to it's not going to happen. We're basically quarantined right now. And the only way we'll meet, it's like at a party and you need someone to introduce you to ET. The only way we're going to meet ET at the party is with the introduction from AI. And I think that's what's coming next here in the next 20 to 30 years, is a real evolution of transhumanist technologies and artificial intelligence. And I think that's going to change everything.
It's funny because I'm almost on the opposite spectrum, although I did used to subscribe to that notion, but I actually believe we're already infiltrated heavily and controlled heavily. And we're fed off by negative energy entities that are more of a dimensional type than as opposed to a traditional extraterrestrial. And I also believe, Jake, that the sign of true evolution of a species is absolutely no reliance on any AI at all. That you've evolved to a level of such complete harmony with this physical reality on a spiritual level that you can actually bend, contort, and control reality to the level where a computer would be an insult like an ant would be to you if you stepped on it.
But how are we going to get there without computers? You take computers away from us right now, and you might as well put us back to the Stone Ages.
Yeah, but why don't we stop drinking fluoride, and why don't we start doing like the B'nai Jesuits from Dune and avoid the Butlerian jihad? And
okay, and that gets us into some of those Stargate files, which is whether humans have the psychic ability to control the universe around us. And
yeah, we have the physiological ability. It's between our two hemispheres of our brain. We have an electromagnetic superconductor. Now, why do they put fluoride in water? Because it's a heavy base that can surpass the blood-brain barrier and cake your pineal gland, aka your superconductor. Now, what did Tesla find out? He found out that the same way that two opposite magnets would be electrified and creating, in a sense, a black hole. That's what's in the middle of our two hemispheres of our brain. that's the whole philosophy of the silver cord theory, where this body is like a marionette for our soul, and our soul is just a variation of whatever from source. Like that's the whole virtual reality / matrix theory, that these are avatars that we're playing with right now, and we're all actually the same person. We're just having different experiences.
Yeah. Well, there's some new research or new scientific thought, which is that what is it that oh God, I read it the other, yeah, well, that consciousness itself is just these vibrations on the surface of the matter, and but it's not actually it's interconnected with the matter, and that in fact that our thoughts and our feelings are recorded on the microtubules. This is one guy's theory, which is that he comes out with basically that a new definition of the soul, which is the soul is the totality of our experience, and that basically that we're seeing what we're seeing is souls that just happen to have bodies. Yeah, I mean, I'm game. I hope that's the case.
Have you had deja vu, or have you been to see a medium or psychic and ever had a past life reading or experience at all?
No, I think I'm scared to do that. I do have an inordinate number of synchronistic moments.
Yeah,
just ridiculous. I mean,
those
just
are matrix glitches in a way, but
yeah.
But I mean, have you ever?
No, I haven't had past life regression.
Like walk down a hall.
My sister did it, and
yeah,
I never got straight from her whether she was convinced or not, but she definitely said it was stunning. But
that's where that's where I say to go down another wormhole of the cloud matrix theory, that we're the same people, me and you, or there's always the possibility this is the first go around for you and you have never had a former life, which if you haven't experienced too much deja vu or any of that, it's totally possible this is your first human experience. But if you've ever had premonitions or thoughts or feelings, it's possible that and I mean, it is you, but you for real, like you've possibly been in a different body, in a different race. Maybe you were even in a different species at one point, but you've had another earthly experience and it feels somewhat like familiar. There's a possibility you've gone around already thousands of times, even you're addicted to this earth experience, or you can't even get out. I've also heard there's like a karmic loop we get stuck into, which is again where the infiltrators or invaders, we can get into that. There's terrestrials and there's stuff called the archons, which we would probably want to research before we delve into that, Jake. But there are things watching and guiding us, and it really ultimately really is up to us to control our destiny on this planet and as a species. And it's getting really weird now. This is an opening. We haven't had an opening, man. Have you ever felt there was a time when people were willing to go out and protest like this, to actually take time out of their busy day to think they can affect the change? Now, when they realize protests don't work, now are they going to be willing to go to the next step? Because the next step is what really works. Protest is a warm-up.
They won't.
The next step's not violence, by the way. The next step is actually blocking commerce.
Right.
So,
absolutely. I would expect that that's possible. I think if Trump did something like defunding Planned Parenthood, I think if he did something like that, I think you really could see a basically a boycott, a commercial boycott, because that's really the only way that you're going to influence the larger socioeconomic order, is by taking your dollars out of it at the end of the day.
And not blocking roads. They're signing these protest bills to make it so that when people are hit blocking the freeway, there's not going to be penalty for the drivers. And
which is really
it's
terrifying.
well, yeah, but there's pragmatic reasons because already a few people have died en route in ambulances. So honestly, they only need one reason, and there you go. You got two. Two people have
Right,
already died.
but you know they're going to exploit the shit out of that
Yeah.
and use it to basically mow down protesters
Yes.
where they have a
Yeah.
chance.
Which is why
So that's
people
why
that
it's not worth it. That's why it's bad because it's going to be exploited.
it
It's
will.
going to
Yes.
kill way more people than it's going to save.
Absolutely, but you know what? The protesters shouldn't have followed their Soros organizers and been smart about it and went and blocked ports and went and blocked shipping centers and distribution centers, not blocking the freeway where
Well, I mean,
people,
which protesters are you talking about? Because I
any
mean,
of them.
I
Because
personally went out and I've never met George Soros, so I didn't get any of
what
his
I
funds.
mean by that is that there's funding and an organization behind these movements. They're done strategically to have actually no real value besides political. They literally just make us look like idiots
Okay,
because they're not
I bet.
achieving they're not
They're not doing
achieving
shit.
anything.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, it's just cathartic. It's just this cathartic social ritual of people who desperately need to feel like they're doing something. People that have had their mouths shut for the last 8 years. It's actually driving me nuts. It's forcing me off Facebook. People that would make little sarcastic comments when I would post something political. People that have not said shit for 8 years are suddenly it's as if they're you know sacrificing themselves to the God. I posted my last Facebook post is like Christ, three Christs on Facebook crosses, and that's what I feel like is going on right now. Is it's just this cathartic ritual of people that really don't know what's going on. I think that's the thing that's most sad to me about it is that these are people that and I don't claim to know what's going on. I don't claim to know a whole lot. That's why I'm reading this book right now. I'm trying to educate myself more on how we got to this point. But I know what's happened for the last 16 years, and for the last 16 years, we have been living in this cocoon of the surveillance state and have not really been doing much to stop it. And when Obama took over, he got a blank slate and we went silent for 8 years. A lot of liberals went silent for 8 years, and that allowed them to do a bunch more stuff. And now we have someone coming in who, I mean, I can't support him because he just sounds the things he says and his plans for stripping away social safety nets and whatnot sound awful to me, and it sounds like it's going to hurt a lot of people. But in terms of foreign policy, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't think Trump's plan is to dismantle the military-industrial complex.
No, it's to strengthen it. We'll have more troops and more ships and more planes and more missiles and bombs than you've ever seen before. But you know what? We may do it for less money. So I just want to caution people before we get on a Trump hate train because it's already going. It's already creating. It's too late, but it could die down if people would just settle down and just watch instead of listen. I just please watch instead of listen. The guy's not a politician. He's not a smooth Academy Award-winning actor like we've had for 8 years. Okay, he doesn't really give a shit about how you feel. He's a businessman, and if he is impeached, trust me, he's not going to jail. He's just leaving the country. Okay, and you're going to get Pence.
Oh,
So
I don't. I'll
take
take Trump over Pence any day of the week.
all these protesters, you need to look at the line of succession. After that, it's Ryan, and then after that, it's Orrin Hatch. Do you want President Orrin Hatch? Do you have any idea what he is? He's Pence on steroids, okay?
Well, I mean, they're not going to impeach three people, DB.
No, but they could try. They could try.
No
Now,
way.
that's the
Republicans have
problem is-
control over all three branches.
Exactly.
They're not even going to impeach Trump. Trump would have to be indicted in Pizzagate to be impeached.
So how long do you let these protests go? At what point does a terrorist take advantage of the opportunity to do a huge
God.
event because law enforcement's completely occupied right now?
That's the worst thing that could happen.
Okay,
right now.
that would create martial law right away, and we can blame the extreme stupid left who's getting too crazy. And trust me, man, like I've said a million times before, I'm in the middle. I lean left. I'm starting to see them, honestly, as a bigger, huge national security threat and a big problem, way more than the Trumpers are.
And why? And I'm not disagreeing with you. I want to know your reasoning on that.
Well, because it's so simple, man. For every Antifa idiot, a real guy who wants to kill people can go do his thing unimpeded. So all these, anarchy morons, go buy a farm somewhere, dude. Get away from society. Go grow food. Go become a millionaire overnight if you grow avocados in the right place. Like, just shut the
A
hell
lot of
up.
the anarchists are. I mean, the one ideally, I would see them protesting violently the security state as represented through the banks and the corporations. That's why, the footage of the brick thrown through the Bank of America and the brick thrown. But if there was a direct messaging behind what was happening, if people.
But what are you gonna do? You can't play a game in their jungle. You're gonna come in, cover your face, break a brick that's insured, throw a brick through this place that's insured. All the insurance rates just jack up for the millions of people that they cover.
Well, I'm not saying that the black bloc people know what they're doing, and I'm not saying that.
But what do you do? You're not hurting the real. If you want to affect change, you have to hurt oligarchs. The way oligarchs have created protection is by incorporating and spreading their wealth around, so that one guy owns equal shares in McDonald's and Burger King and Carl's Jr.'s and wherever. So they don't give a shit where you eat. They get paid no matter what. And that's how it really works. So when you go out and do property damage, who the hell do you hurt? Nobody except people that have to buy insurance for anything, because that's what you do. When you do property damage, you just jack insurance rates up. Now, how would you be actually effective?
Well, you also have to look at the optics behind it. When people start seeing visions of capitalism with a brick thrown through it, I think that can have. Look, I'm not saying that this is a palatable way to dismantle late capitalism. What I'm saying is it's more than just a strategic thing. There's optics behind this in terms of.
But how do you dismantle what you depend on? See, if you're an Amish guy with a farm.
Well, right. People have to. People are
if you're an Amish guy with a farm, then you can say fuck the system. You know why? Because you don't need it to eat.
Right.
But these fools that go home and
these
eat Taco Bell.
Misguided because the people they're biting the hand that feeds them, basically.
Make a new hand. Before you smash the hand you need, make another hand.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Use that.
Be proactive before you're reactive.
Yeah, make that hand pleasure you.
Yeah, pleasure yourself with your offhand before you break your primary.
Yeah, we're on the same page, man. We don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that I think I can go both ways on these protests. I think a lot of them are stupid.
And
pointless.
Do it smarter.
Yeah.
You're not hurting the people that you think you are. You're being a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Well,
you're making the situation right for martial law is what you're doing.
Yeah. But what would really work? What if Chinese goods couldn't get into the port of Long Beach? That sure as hell would hurt. That would hurt. That would not hurt your fellow Americans, who, by the way, some of them support you. We like when you punch certain people in the face. But we think you're stupid. We think you're stupid when you throw bricks around and set limos on fire and get journalists arrested. You look like idiots.
I heard that Richard Spencer got punched in the face a second time that day.
By a little chick, so it really didn't hurt him. So he doesn't care. But the thing is, dude, it's fine to punch douchebags who need to be shut up. There's nothing wrong with that. That he's not. Listen, he's not even in the same category as Milo, who makes credible arguments sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. I hate Milo, but he's at least part of the discourse.
He's smart.
Spencer wants ethnic cleansing. That's a different ballgame.
And listen, the only thing Spencer did was opened up the door that if anyone echoes his sentiments, that's any race. If you're a black guy and you say what he says, that whites should be wiped out, I'm going to come punch you in the fucking face.
Yeah.
And if you're an Asian guy that says Mexicans should get wiped out, you deserve to get kicked in the face. Hopefully it's, by Bruce Lee looking guy or something.
Anybody advocating ethnic cleansing of any kind cannot complain if they get punched.
You're a troglodyte. I mean, You
Yeah.
don't have a decision who your parents are. So when people hold that against you, they're a piece of shit.
Amen, man. It's going to be interesting. So we got like 2 minutes left. What are you, it's been a flurry of executive actions, and I actually agreed with at least one of them, the TPP one. What do you see coming down the pipeline here in the next? Well, I mean, a lot's going to happen before we talk again next week. So what do you think? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, the major thing to look just keep the wall is kind of a distraction, okay?
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways they've been doing that piecemeal with. If you go to the border, there's already a wall in San Diego. There's the only places that's empty are these desert areas. So let's not be too insane about it. It's not a major policy change. It's more of a pronouncement. Another thing to bring up just real quickly, that satellite images have shown that there are Chinese troops in Mexico. So building a wall is kind of smart if we're ever going to fight China. Just want to throw that out there. You can research it yourself.
Okay. Wow. That's a different
So
angle.
it's a different angle. So that makes more sense from a national security standpoint. But really what I want to tell people is watch what's going on in Chicago. Rahm Emanuel is a super corrupt scumbag.
Yep.
Appointee. He's enemy number one from the Midwest. Everybody hates him. They want him gone. The Fed's going to go in and clean house in that city. They're going to be the test case, and you're going to see this be repeated in every sanctuary city because despite whatever any liberal thinks, we do have a constitution. If you want to change it, get an amendment done. Don't create a city-state scenario like Greece had that led to its downfall. If you want to see Greece plus Rome, you want to see the federal government fight city-states, that'll be real fun.
All right, there you have it, man. Thank you so much, DB. Thank you for all your wisdom today. You really rocked the house tonight.
It's a lot of stuff, man. I don't want people to fall into this hole where they're going to give up their rights. The far left right now, these soccer moms and these SJWs, they're the biggest threat to our freedoms. I'm sorry, but they are.
Yeah, I'm not sure I totally agree with that, but I think you made a lot of really interesting points tonight. Yeah, so people, let's get organized with our protests here, and like DB said, let's watch and react to what's actually happening instead of just our emotions.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.